Hi, Andres.
Hi.
I tried shutting his mouth,
I can see your faces,
You can't?
guys.
and
I
we're
think it's
seeing your.
because you're using your phone, so it's not showing everybody because it's too many people. Probably.
Oh, really? Camera's on?
Yeah, I can see both. I can see both of them.
Yeah, I can see everyone.
Why can't I see them?
There's too many people, maybe.
There's too many people for your phone, or maybe because you pressed the add people and your phone's being weird. I don't know.
I can see your pretty faces.
I can see your pretty faces. Oh my God, there's a lot of light.
Oh well.
Great.
Hi.
Yay! Welcome to Star Stories in Life, the podcast and videocast where we talk about the stars, stories, and life. So today we have a very special topic. We're going to be talking about teaching and getting a lot of notifications, apparently. It's a very rewarding yet unappreciated profession.
Yes.
And as
A lot of special guests on our show today. They are our friends, obviously. You've met one of them, and we have an extra special guest who you've not met yet, but you'll be I'm very excited to introduce her to all of you. So,
yes,
we are not only going to be talking about teaching, it's going to be more than that because we all used to be teachers. Some of us still are.
yes.
So we'll talk about why some of us are not teachers anymore and why some of us. So we'll have varied opinions on what teaching means to us and
and
how
what
we
we
look
can
at
take.
it. Yeah. So without further ado, should we call our friends?
Yes, we should, since we're getting messages from them anyway.
Pageant queen. Anyway, so today we are talking about why we left teaching, why we started. I mean, we'll talk about all aspects of teaching, but I feel like this is going to become a
Show.
roast.
Of course.
Because we all used to work for
Show.
and none of us do.
Yes. We just have to remember not to say names.
Yeah, I don't think we were.
I don't want to be editing out names. It's going to be very annoying.
Yeah,
I
guess we won't take the
to
names.
be honest,
But
I
we'll
don't
say
think they care enough. I don't think they care enough. Like I tagged them in a post the other day, a couple of months ago, just like outing them for all the things that they did while I was there, and they didn't they saw the post and everything. They didn't care. They were like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, I think I gave them a bad review on Glassdoor, I think, after I left.
Yeah,
I did that.
I was kind of feeling that maybe they're low key petty too, because I don't know. Maybe I don't understand what happened, but shortly after all of the material that was shared with me through Google Drive or whatever, now started asking me to seek permission before I can open or use or read or see or view anything of the
yeah,
sort.
they don't want you to use that.
I
And I'm
still
like,
have all
when
of
did this
mine.
happen?
Oh yeah.
I have all of mine still.
No, I don't get access to mine.
I kept like a lot of stuff from them, but like we're not gonna say that. And
Yeah. So we didn't keep none of that shit.
Back. I only have their
I'm gonna
ID
see
and I
why.
use it sometimes. I have the teacher's ID, so I sometimes use it to get discounts and stuff.
I never got a teaching ID. That's not fair.
They never gave it to me either.
Yeah, I didn't give it back.
I didn't get mine either.
Yeah, I remember the director asking me like, oh, so have you do you have anything from Berlitz? I'm like, no, I gave it all back.
Oh,
and she didn't even verify. She was like, okay, cool, I trust you.
Gavi did not speak a word to me.
To me neither. I was ignored when I left, and I was like, okay.
Wow. Yeah. So we're going to start by we'll go one by one and talk about why we how did we become teachers? What happened to us? What brick hit our head?
Hit our head.
So let's go alphabetically. I guess let's start with you, Andres. Can you tell us a little bit, like, how you became a teacher? Like, introduce yourself to our listeners and viewers.
Our whole 2 listeners.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
we have 8 subscribers on YouTube. Okay, I love them. How are
Yeah,
you?
8 of them. 8.
Nice. Well, I'm Andres. I am an ex-teacher, and I'm currently an artist. And yeah, I don't know. Like, I started teaching when I was 21, and I ended my life as an official teacher when I was 23. So yeah, almost 2 lives I gave to that company. 2 years of my life I gave to that company. So I started teaching because I remember I came back from a year abroad in Germany, and I had like a little bit of German knowledge. I had my, always been speaking English and stuff, and then Spanish. And so I enrolled in university with like a translation major. And so I said, well, I guess teaching would be like a great use for that major. So I might as well just start trying to get a job in that kind of like field. And so I didn't really expect to be hired. Show. It was like way too easy to be true. Like, like it was just like you went there, you did the test, and it was like, okay, you're hired. Like you start training, and I'm like, oh wow, like I don't even have a degree yet. But apparently I'm good enough for your company, which, I mean, I was, but
But I
don't know, like it was way too easy. Like it showed how desperate they were to get new teachers because like they're always understaffed. But anyways, that's how I started teaching. That's how I started teaching.
Yeah, they always were. What about you, Emma?
Okay, so our listeners already know me, but might as well do a mini introduction. So I was a teacher for, I think, a grand total, probably with all my years in different teaching places, probably around 3 years in total, probably. I started teaching because I was like fresh at the beginning of college, and I was like, oh, I want to do something. And so I started teaching at a different company, a different private English company. And then I was offered a job to work at a secondary school as an English teacher. And the pay looked nice.
How long ago was this, the secondary school?
Oh, it was a long time ago. Probably maybe 5 or so years ago.
Okay.
More or less. And I only worked there for 1 semester. Because honestly, it was too stressful for me working there. Because it was a bunch of kids. Getting them to listen was... How many kids did I have? I think I had 3 classes of 40 kids. So I had to remember all those kids' names. I had to teach them all. And then what I had to teach, it felt like they didn't really want me to teach. Not really. That's the way it felt at the time. Like,
you mean the kids? They didn't want you to teach?
No, the school.
Oh, the school did?
Yeah.
The school didn't want you to teach.
Yeah, they didn't want me to teach. And so I only did it for 1 semester because the stress of that was just, it was too much for me at the time. Mm-hmm. And I ended up with an eye twitch that didn't leave for a year.
An eye twitch?
Wow.
An eye twitch that didn't leave for a year. And then I had a different job for a little while. And then I got to the company where I met you guys. And I taught there for 6 months?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Almost as long as Tom, like one of our...
Yeah, Tom left probably like 2 months before I did.
Tom, I think, left like within 3 months.
Yeah, Tom, he left because he felt disrespected.
Get the work permit.
Yeah. Like he was just out of there. Just
Good.
and I stayed there for the 6 months, and then I was like, yeah, I can't do this. They're expecting
Did you
too much.
back your eye twitch?
I don't think it brought back the eye twitch. It was giving
But
me
were you-
headaches, if I remember correctly. It was giving me headaches and small panic attacks, just little ones. And that's why I stopped teaching, because I was like, I can't.
Yeah. That just sounds horrible.
It's like I tried it 3 times, and nah, it's just not for me.
And you tried.
I gave it 3 tries.
Yeah.
3
Mark?
days of farm.
What about you?
My
Why did-
kitchen.
Where did you start? How did you end up being a teacher?
It wasn't by my decision, really. I wanted to be an artist. I've been drawing since I was a kid, specifically fashion designing, which I did for 2 years, which really paid my rent and enjoyed life with just being a designer. But anyway, so when I was 17, it was time to go to college, university. And I remember taking the application form from the top art school in Jamaica called Ennamanle Art School to my dad, which I had no idea he felt this way. He's like, he's not signing it.
What?
Hashtag art does not put food on a table.
Even though it was paying your rent?
No, but okay, so that happened after. I'll get to that in a second. But at the time when you're 17, just coming out of
Yeah.
high school and about to go to, everybody's like looking, where do you want to go after high school? What university, you know? And for me, it was like Ennamanle Art School, definitely. Like all the best artists, some from all over the Caribbean, not just in Jamaica, go there. So, or went there, yeah, go, when, whatever. And I was like, so what the hell do I do now? Because, I mean, I was totally dependent on my dad. And I don't remember how the idea of teaching came up, but I do remember that he was totally for that. And so we ended up at a teacher's college that I'd never heard of before, looking at all the options, and I saw Spanish and history. But that year, history was not available, so I ended up doing Spanish and French for 3 years. Because I was like, if I'm going to do education or teaching, which is something I never thought of, and to be honest, it's not something I ever fancied back then. I decided I have to major in something that I at least liked. And I've been into Spanish like crazy since 6 or 7 when I first heard the Cubans, that sometimes the Cuban channel gets to Jamaica because it's, you know, it's a different country through the AM band. But I thought it was Chinese or Japanese at the time until I was like 10 or 11, got to high school, discovered it was Spanish. And that's when I realized it was something I really loved. So when I started college, I was like, okay, I'll do Spanish. That will make it easier because I'm going to have to tolerate teaching. At least I'm doing something that I like in education and teaching. So that's how that started, teaching Spanish and French. And my first teaching job was at another university, a top university of the Caribbean called the University of the West Indies, where we taught Latin Americans who would come to the Caribbean islands to learn English. So we were teaching Colombians and Venezuelans. That was a nice experience, not a fixed job. My first fixed teaching job was in France for an entire year and then went back to Jamaica where I taught as well. So that's how it started, basically. But I have to add though, teaching had to grow on me. So, you know, right now I don't feel the same I did as at 17, 18, or 19, totally different. But yeah, sorry, Shinjini?
Which year did you start officially?
When I got to Europe, I probably 20.
You were 20?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's a really long time ago.
Yes, 20.
Like what, a decade now?
A decade, yeah.
Wow.
I mean, and if you want to look at when I really started in education at 17, well, what, 13 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, something
It's a
like
really
that.
long time.
Uh-huh. And that's why I say it had to grow on me. You
Yeah.
know? Now I can measure who I was at 17 years old and now 30. And right now, to be honest, I feel like there's nothing else in this world that I can do. Like I've done this so many times over the past 13 years. I've learned techniques. I know, like working here in Mexico, going almost 4 years, not 4 yet. But the point is that now I realize that when it comes to teaching Latinos or Spanish speakers, like there's certain errors and mistakes or little slip-ups that you just expect. So when you're gonna teach this topic, okay, we're gonna hear this. be ready. That's
Yeah.
what you need to work and encourage. You know, it just comes naturally. So when somebody's like, "Oh, I'm looking for an English teacher," and they're Spanish, oh, okay, sure. I know what your problems are already. I'm ready. You know.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I remember also like the teaching thing completely happened to me because I remember saying that I would never be a teacher. When I was a teenager, and my dad, I don't know, like he saw something in me. He was like, "Oh, have you ever thought about being a teacher like your mom?" And I was like, "Hell no!" Like I feel like I've become like really bitter and um, angry and always like irritated. Like that's how I perceive teachers to be. Like they were, and for good reason. Like I understand, like kids are amazing. So I remember thinking never becoming a teacher, but because so I will start from when I was a performing artist. So when I graduated from college, which was 2014 or 13. No, 12, 2012. I graduated in 2012 and I became a performing artist. So I was singing in many clubs and I was performing with a lot of artists everywhere in my country. And but it wasn't enough, like because I wanted to move out and have my own thing. So I got an offer to teach at a performing arts school, and I was like very hesitant. I was like, I don't know. And but the director of that school like really had faith in me. She was like, "No, you're a great student, and I think you can I think you'll be a great teacher." So I started teaching music and catwalk.
And
uh,
what?
Catwalking.
Yes, I was teaching performing arts. So I used to teach upcoming models because I had a brief stint at modeling. I hated it, and I left that. And but I was like, okay, if you want me to teach it, I'll do that. So I was teaching catwalk, and I was teaching music, like vocalist, like teaching people who wanted to be singers. And I did that like for a year, and I really liked it. I really did, and I was like really surprised, like really, I like teaching, and I really got like great feedback from my students too. Not all of them were kids; they were mostly teenagers or adults, like young adults. And I felt like, okay, they are kind of cool. I mean, I guess I can teach them. But I left that job because I had some differences with the administration. And I just like decided that, you know what? I think I'm really good at English, and so I'm just gonna teach English and travel the world. Like it just came to me one day. And so I went to Thailand, got my degree in teaching, and I started applying to jobs, and I got this offer in Mexico, came to Mexico, and I have been pretty much teaching since then, although I left my job early this year because of differences with the administration. Um, and I think I've taught before, but teaching in Mexico was especially hard for me because I was struggling with the language. I didn't have to speak Spanish, but still, like, just to survive in the country. I've never heard of Spanish in my life. Nobody speaks Spanish in India. There is no exposure to that language whatsoever. So I was like really struggling with the language, the culture of Mexico, and at the same time, teaching, I felt like in general is kind of hard because um, there's a lot of people skills involved, and if you're not like feeling your best, um, it's really hard to show up. Like it takes an emotional toll afterwards. Like you're hiding your emotions, like on some of the days that you're not really feeling your best, and you have to like show up and perform. It took a toll on me because I had differences with the administration, and that I did not want that to show up when I was teaching. So 3 years I taught in this particular school in Mexico, and it was very, very exhausting. It was very demanding. It consumed my life, physically, emotionally, mentally. And I only realized that after I left. After I left, I was like, Oh my God, this is
Wow.
like I can breathe again. Oh my God, I've got my life back. You know, it was very, 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 very demanding. That's why I left teaching. Although I still teach privately, but I choose my hours. Like I have a lot of independence. I can, you know, put whatever rate I want. I can put whatever effort I want, whichever time I want. Like I do not take any classes unless I absolutely have to. Like I made sure that I enjoy myself. Otherwise, I'm not taking the class because I feel like if I depend on teaching as a career, I'm just going to give up a lot of my life. So teaching is
Which
not
is
my career
funny.
anymore, but I just do it because I enjoy it now.
It's so funny
That's my
because like
experience.
there are so many like creative fields where people want to go into that are probably more lucrative than teaching. But also when people are like, "Oh, I want to become a teacher," they're like, "Okay, go ahead." Like they don't tell you like, "Oh, you're gonna
Yeah.
starve." Of course, everyone knows that teachers are not well paid, but no one is stopping you, you know. And I'm like,
Uh-huh.
then you go into it, and it's like, shit. No one told me that we don't make shit. Like we don't make money, and
And that you
like
don't have a life.
private schools don't care about you. Like
Mm-mm.
for-profit organizations, and also like in Mexico, public schools don't care about you
No,
either.
they don't.
So
They don't.
it's just
I kind of knew that teaching was hard because I saw my mom struggle with it. Like she used to, teaching also consumed her life in many ways. She would like wake up really early in the morning, go to school, and after teaching, she had administrative work. She was grading papers, and she would bring that work home, you know. And I saw her like really stressed out, and that was like one of the reasons that I didn't want to be a teacher. Um, and when I did become a teacher, like full time, like completely committed to it, I kind of had the same experience. I know a lot of us do not share the same opinion, um, but or do we? I don't know.
what is your opinion?
Which
Like
one?
Like teaching is just very demanding emotionally and physically.
It is. I
I
would
would
agree with you.
say,
I feel like it depends on how you approach it because how I did it, I'm sure you're all familiar. There are days, most days, where there's a method. Remember the method that we had to follow, that they wanted us to follow? I deviated so much. I always
Same.
delivered, but in my way because I've realized, and for a long time, that each student that you've got is different. I have some students who just love to see pretty stuff, photos
Yeah.
and you have those who like reading, and you have those who like talking. And so I have a student right now. She because at the school that I go to, they share the groups between two teachers, and she often tells me that the other guy, he just sticks to the book and he goes through and he finishes like an entire unit, not chapter, unit in
holy
like
shit!
a week.
Oh
Uh-huh.
my
And
god!
while my unit takes sometimes a month, it sounds like I'm taking forever. However, she appreciates the sessions with me because
Mm-hmm.
we deviate a lot from the particular topic we're looking at. I believe like if you're gonna ask how is the weather, and a student says, "How's the weather today?" and a student says, "Oh, it's sunny and beautiful." Some teachers are like, "Okay, okay, next question." No, it's sunny and beautiful. Do you like when it's sunny, Jasmine? I love when it's
Uh-huh.
sunny. But there are
Like having
days
a
like in the
conversation.
summer, I don't fancy the sun at all. You see, you create a conversation around
Uh-huh.
it. Not
Uh-huh.
everybody does that. And some students appreciate when you're able to create a conversation, a content, because you're pulling more out of them while they're learning so much more from
Yeah.
you and the conversation. So my point is, yeah, there was a method that I really did not appreciate. Supervisors knew this. The
Mm.
director, I don't remember ever telling her, but my supervisors knew this. And they always told me to stick with it, but I never really did.
Mm.
Uh-uh.
I mean, you got great feedback anyway. I mean, I don't know, Andres, how much did you follow the method in our previous school?
I try to follow it as much as possible. Of course, when I had like um, people observing me, I would stick even more to the method.
Yes.
But I was flexible with it when I knew I had difficult students or students that I knew wouldn't cooperate with the method or didn't want to cooperate with the method. I was just like, you know what? I am going to do my best at this job, and I don't get paid enough to care enough.
Yeah,
So like
exactly.
that's the main thing. Like if there's all this struggle and the method is proven to work, yes, I'm going to follow it as much as possible. But also, I'm not gonna break my back trying to just follow the method.
Yeah.
And you know, but yeah. To
You
go
know
back
when
to your question, I just think like yeah, teaching for me wasn't really challenging. It was more like the schedule that I was assigned to, always changing
Oh my
with
God.
like availability,
Yes.
all of that, and the method, and the fact that we didn't get enough like money or resources to prepare good classes.
Yes.
Because like if we had the funding for those materials and everything that they wanted us to do, then it would be a different story. But if you say, oh well, how am I supposed to create pictures and stuff? Oh well, you have the printer and you have the computers. Computers didn't work. Okay,
Yeah.
well you have markers and stuff, and I'm like, okay, am I supposed to be drawing all day or like making materials all day for all my 8 classes that I have today? Like,
Yeah.
what's going to happen? And then markers didn't get replaced for a year. Like they're all dry. Like all of that. Like all of that made it challenging to teach. But in and of itself, whenever I teach on my own or like independently, it's so much easier, and I enjoy it so much.
Exactly.
It's so easy to me to be just like I'm a Virgo, so I just like to explain things to people. So.
I get you when you say preparation was a thing, a problem at times, because when I realized this, because I didn't know that when I was there, I remember telling Shinjini after I left, comparing both.
Yep.
The school I went to, everything is ready. Lesson plans are done. There are books and CDs and audios for every single class. You just need to pop up 5 times before, look at what topic you're looking at, go to the CD drawer, go to the DVD closet and the books and the whatever charter stuff, and you bring the remote controls for them because there are plasmas everywhere and computer. They are so ready. And in my head, I'm like, a place that the school that we were at all together, they're way bigger organization or franchise than the school I'm at now. They're
And
just one
wealthier
branch. While
too.
this school that we're coming from, they're in on every continent, and they're nothing compared to where I'm at right now. It's such a breath of relief. When I get home, there's no lesson planning to be done. On the weekends, I can go out and not think on Monday, fuck, I need to plan lesson on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Already done. Just make sure I get there 10 and 15 minutes before, get the book, the register, check where we're at. That's it. So
Yeah.
Sounds
I
awesome.
remember you telling me this, Mark, because I was like really surprised. Because before the school that we are talking about in Mexico, I taught in Thailand, and it was our school too. And they were also like I remember that we didn't have like smart boards and stuff like that, but everything was like super organized. Like everything was available for me to teach in a in a relaxed manner. But yeah, the planning part was always like very difficult for me. Like I cannot be so. I sometimes used to get really overwhelmed with the whole planning thing. Like, to be very honest, like it really gave me a lot of stress. I don't know, it's because I have ADHD, but I mean, partly probably because of that, but the planning was not like supported, because when I used to teach in Thailand, I remember it was supported planning. So the guideline was already there. I just had to like maybe change the activities a little bit. That's the only thing that I had to plan, which is not a lot. Like it takes 5 minutes probably. But with this company in Mexico, it was like everything. They had a book which was supposedly a guide for instructors, but I remember Andres and all of us actually, we were told not to follow it.
Yeah.
not
Don't
to
do
what?
it.
Not to
you
follow
have-
it. Like, no, don't follow the instructor's guide. And I was like, what the fuck is the instructor's guide for? Like
Exactly.
it's like I'm making my own book. I'm writing my own book without getting paid. It was like free fucking labor to them.
Yeah. And even supervisors didn't consider the planning time. So if they take the planning super seriously, but they don't consider the planning time in our schedule either.
Yep.
So for example, I would get off on Friday at 9 p.m. But a couple hours prior, like my class at 7:30, they would tell me, "Oh, tomorrow you have a new class, a new group at 7 a.m. or something." And I'm like, "But do you realize you just told me this, and I have to plan my lesson?" It's like, "Oh, don't worry, you can plan it tonight." And I'm like, "Tonight I need to sleep." Like,
don't worry, you can
Can you
just
imagine being told that?
sleep and dinner and plan the lesson.
I'll go home, which I lived in Playas when I was working there, so it took me like an hour and a half to get home. I got home at 11 after I finished teaching. It was It was awful.
It was.
But yeah,
It really was.
I think teaching is not difficult for me per se, but it's just
Yeah.
like the whole institution, company,
Maybe that's what spoiled your experience that you had
Yeah.
to start with
Yeah.
that, unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely,
What
definitely.
about
I left with a bad taste in my mouth, but I also
yeah?
learned a lot of things to look out for in the next, in general, like next job period.
I
Like,
think you'll be back. I think you'll be back.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's like I absolutely feel what Andres is feeling. It's like we were both like really exhausted because of the bullshit. That's what would really consumed us and kind of distracted us from our quality of teaching. And I was so exhausted with all of that. I really had to take a break. I had to be like, I can't, like, cannot be involved in any sort of teaching, planning, administration in the education sector. Like, I really needed a break. And I feel like after 6, 8 months, then I again, started my private classes. I was even saying no to private classes. I was like, no, I can't do this. This is too much for me. It was like such a sensory overwhelm for me.
you know what's funny? For me,
But
it was the complete opposite. I started teaching again right after I got laid off from this company. I just emailed I kept the contacts, so many of my students gave me their contacts and their contact information. So when I left that company, I just messaged them, I emailed them, do you want private lessons? I can help you. And a lot of them, like, I literally was making more money during those 2 months that I was teaching private lessons before Corona came, because
yeah,
that made the whole thing just like go to shit. But it was like literally so relaxing. I could go to a cafe in front of the beach and meet my student there,
that's
have my
awesome.
material, everything prepared. It's just like one-on-one lessons. It was so relaxing, and I was making enough money and all of that. It was just like perfect. I'm like, I like teaching. It's just like that
Yeah.
place was
That
awful.
place was awful. Yes,
Emma,
I
how was your
agree.
experience
Um,
in school?
when we were at that school, let's give the school a name. We will call it Shell English School. So it's Shell. At Shell, I remember teaching, actually being in the classroom with the students. I didn't mind. I didn't like it per se, but I didn't hate it, right?
Mhm.
The students, they were all decent people, except for one.
Oh my God.
We always had that one.
I think we all taught her once. At
Oh,
least.
Oh,
the
yeah.
elderly woman.
Yeah, we did.
You'll tell me
elderly.
after.
Oh,
Maybe
I remember.
Mark did.
I'll just say
Yeah,
her name
Mark.
started with an M.
Mark did too?
I think so. I think
I think you did.
Yeah.
her.
Yeah. We probably taught
I
her.
think we all taught her once because she kept switching teachers.
Yes.
This is interesting too, because I feel I don't know, like, a topic that's interesting to me is like the prejudice that students already have about teachers.
Exactly.
For me, that woman in particular took my age as a signal that I was not ready.
Yes, so
Yes.
I
Like,
do.
Now you know who it
it's
is.
like, you're too young to be teaching me, and I'm like, well, I mean, that's not my fault. I was assigned to you, like,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. Like, I wonder how did you used to deal that, all of you, like, with prejudice from your students? Did you ever had any case where there was like prejudice inflicted on you from students or even like administrative staff?
From
Yes.
staff, me
She-
probably
she-
never, but from that one student, a little bit.
Yeah. She treated me for like 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
It was not said how or why, but I've gotten accustomed to the whole black thing. So she needed to trust me. You're black. I expected a white American, but they gave me a black person from a small island in a third world country. Again, she never said it in so many words, but it happens to me all the time. I get a new group, new
Mm-hmm.
students. So I'm pretty sure, and given, to be honest, she was a little bit on the fancy side. In Mexico, you call them
Yeah.
fresa. So without a doubt, she would see me as not the ideal English teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Not American, not white. So, what do you know? Why did they assign you to me? But after those 2 weeks, everything became great because that happens. They start hearing that, okay, you do know how to speak English. Okay, now I can calm down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I
Another
know
thing
that she
that
did like me, but I didn't like her. Like, I know she liked me. I mean, she was nice to me. I guess I had a very, like, white American type of accent, so that's what she liked. And, but she just had an energy that I was like, I don't know, thank you. You're a person that will either corrupt me eventually, or you'll just be nasty. Like, that's just like,
I remember her. I remember.
I never really got a complaint from her, but I had a hard time with her. Like, she was never on time. Never.
never.
Always.
Sometimes she just disappeared. You just want to show up.
And she was so interested in my culture, which I mean, great, of course, but she kind of like obsessed. I sound like Regina George. Are you obsessed with me? Like, she was like asking too many questions about India and stuff like that, which I appreciate, but I wish she did that like outside the class or something. But she was always like, so we were talking about food, and she'd be like, oh, what's the food like in India? Like, not so well. Like, she didn't ask so well. Like, 100 grammatical letters in one question. So we were like, how's the food in India? Like, oh, I once went to India and I saw the Taj Mahal and I got this like painting, and I was like,
I love that.
yeah. So let's get back to food. What is this? And it was like, she was like very distracting, and she didn't want to be there to learn English. She just, I don't know what she was doing there. She was just like, I have money, I have time, so let's do this shit. I felt like that was her attitude.
Yeah.
I think I heard that about
I had a hard time with her, and she didn't pass. And I mean, she couldn't. I mean, I think halfway through she gave up because she saw that she was like really not being able to keep up with her peers, because her peers were like really advancing and doing really well, and she was like holding the group back. And I don't know, she kind of realized that, and she was like, oh, you know what, I should get into like private classes. And that's when she, I think, met you, Andres, or Mark, I don't remember. But I was teaching her in a group initially.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So
you get all kinds of personalities.
Yeah.
Mention people's skill is exactly what came to mind. You get everything.
Yeah, you get everything. Like I was saying before we got onto her, like students, I almost never had any problems with. It wasn't a big deal. There were some that just would refuse to stop speaking Spanish, which got annoying. But then it was like, okay, figure out a way how to work around that. And then, but the thing that probably made it very difficult was, in fact, the administration, how they would just give you a random class the day before.
Yeah.
And we're like, I don't even know this. Like, this is the first time I'm reading this. And I was very bad with the planning. Like, I overplan because I just have so much anxiety of not having the right thing down. And so I would plan for hours, like, before going to work. Like, I think I worked in the afternoon. I don't remember.
Yeah. I think you mostly work in the afternoon.
So I was like, all morning I was planning, and I wouldn't even finish. Like, so it was like.
Did you get any support from your supervisor?
No. Like, they always said, oh, you can always email me. I would send an email and never get an answer. Like, so it's like,
what about your training?
Even try?
Like, how was the training?
The training? I remember when because Mark and I, we had to, like, train ourselves outside of training.
Tom.
Like Tom and you?
Yeah, me and Tom and the other dude who went in with us, whose name I don't remember. He was like Guillermo or something like that. No. He didn't stay. He didn't even pass. But I remember Tom and I, we went to, like, a cafe to, like, go over what they had, like, given us, because they wanted us to do a plan and then do, like, a mock class. And so we were trying to figure out how to plan, but we weren't really taught how to plan.
Yeah.
So we were trying to figure it out. And then I remember we were talking, and then we got talking about how we didn't know what we were doing because they weren't teaching us well how we were doing it. And then Tom was like, "Are they like trained to like train us?"
That's the thing. That's
I'm
the
like,
structural.
Shade.
That's the biggest. That's the bigger conversation because in truth, we knew exactly what was going on with the people who were training you, Emma. Like we know what was going on with that specific person.
Yeah.
And that specific person was not trained to train. So this is a structural problem.
Yeah.
If you hire someone who is not well trained to teach, and like you just get like a week-long seminar in Mexico City and then you come back and you're ready to train, that is not realistic. Then you're going to be training erroneously, and like people are not going to get it. They're going to get frustrated, and they're either going to be fired or they're going to quit or not even pass the training.
With her, it was also a personality problem. I mean, I think every supervisor gets a week to get themselves trained in training others and helping and supporting teachers. I think that's the training they get, or I hope that's the training they get. Mm-hmm. But I think with her particularly, because we've had supervisors before, Mark, you know that. You and I, we've had like so many supervisors together. So I think with her, it was specifically
personality.
I think she was very impatient. I just thought she was very impatient, and she was treating her teachers like they were kids. So she would like scold them or, you know, like roll her eyes and stuff like that. So, I mean, if you are, I guess, I understand that to some extent because I am an Indian and I know teachers do that. But when I was in school, teachers did that. Like, they showed their frustration with you and stuff like that. I think it's a total brown thing to do that, but at the same time, we are not.
We're from Jamaica, where you teach adults and in tertiary education. That doesn't happen.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Like when you're teaching adults, it's a completely different thing. I mean, you're teaching kids. I guess you have, you know, that space to scold them or discipline them and stuff like that. But with adults, you can't do that. And she treated the teachers like adults. So she showed her frustration.
Like kids.
She was
like children.
Like children.
And you know, as adult, you're like, why are you treating me like I'm an idiot?
Exactly.
Yeah. It's like, why don't you explain to me how this is supposed to be done? Like, I don't know, show me. You know, use one of those teaching methods that you keep talking about, but you just don't use.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just not getting it because you just keep repeating it and it's not sinking in for some reason. Maybe you got to try something else. I don't know.
But did this person have? Do any of you know if this person had like experience teaching adults in the first place?
No, high school kids, and her university studies were for early childhood. Early childhood.
That makes sense. Like that makes so much sense because then it's just, and then here we go with the structural problems as well. Like, why would you hire someone who's not qualified for this?
Yeah, like in no way. Like she didn't have any experience teaching adults, and I think the school that we're talking about was her like first stint at teaching adults, and she had been there like for a couple of months, and the administration chose very experienced teachers. I'm not talking about Mark or me. I'm talking about experienced people who have been there for 5 years, 4 years, you know. So they totally brushed them off and got this new kid on the block as a supervisor. And we were like...
Yeah, I think some people really didn't like it and even left for that reason.
A lot of people left, not only because they felt like, okay, so 4 or 5 years in this school doesn't mean shit to you. Okay, then I guess I'm going to go somewhere where people appreciate me, which is a completely valid emotion that you should feel, you know? And so, yeah, I think with this particular person, it was definitely her personality more than her training, you know, the quality of training that she got, at least in my opinion, because she had problems with everyone in the school. Everyone. I don't remember one single teacher who was like, yeah, you know what? I like her. Not a single one. said that about her, which is like
Not a single one.
alarming. That is alarming, and apparently not for the administration. For the administration, it was like, yeah, it's fine as long as she like licks our butt. I think it's fine.
I feel like there's something else to it that we don't know, like maybe the pay. Maybe if it were Mexican, they knew what more or less to get and they were being paid more. And where the rules are concerned or regulations or I don't know, laws, Mexican laws. So with a foreigner, you escape a lot of those because you either just don't know, you're
Yes.
scared, you're too scared to really push because, well, you're a foreigner in a country, you don't want to be out of a job the next day. And I don't know. That's what I think. That's what I think.
Yeah, definitely. That's something to look into for sure. Like how sketchy they were being with the pay and everything. Like, and from what I knew, it's not more. It's not a lot. It's not a lot in comparison to what we were making. So it's
Yeah.
just
Yes.
it's
Like
just
there were a lot of shady things that were happening in that school. I'm sure it still is. It was I mean I have such like I'm really conflicted about it because it was such a mess. It was such a mess. People were really unprofessional, really disorganized. People were
Such a
sleeping
great
with each
company.
other. And I mean, sleeping with their coworkers is like such a big no for me. I don't know what you think about that, but I mean, and I'm not even talking about this particular person. It was like a normal thing. People sleeping with their coworkers at that school was super fucking normal. And I miss like, spilling tea about that with Mark.
Hunty.
Guess who slept with who?
I never slept with a soul there. I'm like, why did I miss that train?
Yes. So I really miss like it gave me like a lot of life, like talking about other people and who slept with who and stuff like that. Like we were like in some kind of reality TV show.
What's
Red
I
couch.
saw
The red couch.
Yes. The red couch, we all
The
sat
red
there and we were
couch.
like,
We all sat there.
who slept with who?
Oh wait, I remember. I just remember who else was sleeping with who else. And
Okay.
not only teachers and
No, not only
Not only teachers.
teachers. Everybody was sleeping with everybody.
students
Not
too.
everybody.
So,
Not
oh
everybody.
my god, I don't even like.
I think
okay.
Emma's gonna have to cut this part out. Yes.
We'll see. We'll see how I feel later.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm curious to know if this is a thing in schools in general. Like, do
is.
all language schools?
I wouldn't.
It
I
is.
wouldn't.
In
Probably.
a lot of schools, I've seen it elsewhere, but it is.
Damn.
Yeah.
But it was crazy. Like everything was just crazy in that school. Intense.
It got even worse with time. I feel like it got worse over time, worse and worse and worse. And you know what's I think an important conversation to have is emotional support for teachers.
Yeah.
Because
What was that? What's that? I don't know what you're talking about.
Because like yes, they were always like, we're here for you, blah blah blah. You can always come to me. The director was always, but in a way where you're like, okay, but you are my supervisor, and if I complain to you about something, you're gonna tell other people. That's it. And human resources don't have anything to do with human people. Like it's literally just handling money and stuff. So it's just like, okay, so what's your point? What's the purpose that you have in this company? But anyways, I remember specifically talking about this school. When I was kicked out of my parents' house, I was going through a really hard time, and apparently that reflected allegedly on my lessons. And I don't think so, but they were getting me less lessons, and I asked why, and they said, "Oh, they're not as good as before." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? The reviews are the reviews that the students give to me, because I give to them and then I check them. They say that everything's perfect, like, or more than perfect, and even like the people who were asking the questions about how do you think your teacher did, they would tell me, oh, no complaints, everything was good. The feedback that I received was positive, right? And then when I reach out to them, they're like, well, would you like they turned the tables. I was like, why am I not getting more lessons? They're like, you're not performing as well. I was like, where's the proof of that? Well, what's the problem? What is going the problem with you? Why are you not performing well? I'm like, you haven't even given me a valid evidence that I'm not doing well, and you want to know the reason. So I told them like, well, I just got kicked out of my house if you want to know that, and that's why I need more lessons. I need to pay rent. And then they were like, well, we're very sorry about that, but hey, look at your new boss. His mom died 2 days ago, and he's still in Mexico City training. Why
my
can't
God,
you get?
How
Why
can you make
can't?
somebody
anybody
work
wrong.
when their mom died? What the
Like,
fuck?
and I'm like, I wanted to ask that guy, like, okay, so how do you feel about that, though? Like, do you agree with it, or are we just gonna pretend like that's not a human?
He was there.
He was in front of us. He was like,
Oh my God,
the director was like, oh,
that's not nice
can I
though.
tell him? And
Yeah.
and he was like, well, his mom died, and look at him, he's perfect, he's fine, he's doing his hard work, go through it. And I'm like,
Bragging about
I don't
dehumanizing
know
a person.
how I would feel as a supervisor. I don't know how I would feel as a supervisor though, with that being said, because I feel like that's gonna be me in the future in Andre's shoe. Or that says something about how you see me being your employee. I mean, I'm your supervisor, and I get that I'm supposed to show up for work, but it doesn't mean that you're gonna say I'm okay, because I'm not. I don't think anybody would be okay. 2 days later, no.
no,
Exactly.
and you should have at least have like some sort of vacation, or at least give them a break or something,
Mhm.
or just keep doing the shitty thing that you did, making him come into work when his mother died, and just don't tell anybody, because what are you trying to prove? What are you trying to prove with that?
Yeah.
And that's the thing.
It doesn't show the school in a positive light if you do something like that. Like forcing someone to go to work after any kind of tragedy of any kind. Like if your pet dies, even, like, it's a tragedy and you need to go through the process, even if it's like, hey, give me 2 days off. I need time because this really affected me. Like, what if we were to like have gotten into a car crash and have a broken leg? Would we still have to go to work the next day?
Yeah, exactly. So I was on my way to because I had to go to a company, right? And I was in a taxi, and the taxi, the brakes weren't working. So at the intersection, at the red light, it kept going, and we got T-boned by another car. It was a really strong accident. Nothing happened to me. Only my glasses like flew off my face, and that's it. But people were injured in that car crash. I wasn't, luckily. But I called specifically, the person that was our direct supervisor, and they were like,
Shell.
well, are you gonna call an Uber? Because you have to be here. And I'm like, no, I'm going to the hospital to get checked.
Off the air, I'm gonna ask you who asked you that off the air. I want to know who asked you that.
Oh, they have the same initial as me, so
Oh my God. Oh really? I didn't even realize that. Wow.
I had the same experience. I also had the same experience. I don't know if you know this, but it was on a Saturday, and it was like a really early morning class, the 8 a.m. class that we used to have on Saturdays. So I think my driver was like really sleepy. Maybe he didn't sleep enough. I just feel really bad for the driver too, because I don't think he was being careless. He was driving very well until, like, I don't know, something happened in the, in a blink it happened. He just rammed into the car in front of him, because I mean, of course, like, the car in front of us like stopped because of the traffic light. The red light was on, and the car in front of us stopped. And I don't know why my driver didn't stop. He just like rammed right into, and it was really hard. Like, I don't know, like, magically I wasn't injured at all. Although I was sitting in the front seat. That's why I'm really surprised. I was in the front seat. I didn't get injured at all. Although what is it called? The airbag? Yeah, it came out. It was really that bad. And I was shaking, and I was so used to being dehumanized that I knew that they wouldn't listen to me, that they wouldn't help me with the situation or allow me to take a break. And I just told the driver, like, it was like really super close to the school, so we were like 2-3 minutes away. So the driver was like, I'm still going to, he was super apologetic, but he was like, I'm going to get you to the school. It's just 2 minutes away. And I was like, are you sure your car is fucking dilapidated, dude? He was like, we'll go there dilapidated. I was like, that's not very safe. And he was like, no, let's go. I feel so bad. And I couldn't think at that time. I was shaking because
You were in shock, basically.
Yeah, I was in complete and absolute shock. So we did reach there ultimately, and I was like, dude, just take care of yourself. Take a nap and stuff. And I came to school and I told my supervisor then, who's the woman, and I was like, I was in a car crash, and she was like, oh my God, are you okay? I'm like, I think so. And then she was like, okay, your room is like over there. I was like, okay, all right. And I was like in a haze, right? I was like, okay. I just went into my room and I saw my student there, and my student was like, are you okay? And I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, I was just in a car crash. And he was like, oh my God, you don't have to teach today. I'm like, bitch, we are here. So like, no, but it's okay. Like, take your time. Like, my student was kind. Can you imagine? My student was like, no, we don't have to do this. Let's just sit and relax, and let's just relax. We can resume our teaching like a little bit later when you feel better. And he was so compassionate, and my supervisor was like, okay, so your room is like over there. So are you gonna teach? I hope you're gonna teach. Like, she was like that, and I was like, okay. So yeah, I kind of knew, like, I knew that they wouldn't understand. Like, I remember being scared of even calling in sick, like, because would that mean that I am not a good performer or not a good team player, so they would not give me lessons.
Well, if I had a Mexican boyfriend, I would have called in sick. Well, like, my boo is home, you take care of me. Yeah, you should have called in sick.
Yeah, my boyfriend was like extremely supportive, like, through the years that I've been through teaching. And I mean, I definitely took a lot of, I don't even want to say that this is like privilege, I mean, this was like my right, my labor right to take a day off when I'm sick. But I felt more confident because I remember my boyfriend being like, you are sick. You must rest. This is a normal thing to be. You are a human being. Human beings get sick. And when human beings get sick, they're supposed to rest. Did you not know that? And I was like, yeah, you're right. I completely forgot that I was a human being. I really did.
Yeah.
I worked like a machine. I treated myself like a machine too, in so many ways.
Like, I mean, if your car is all of a sudden making noise, you wouldn't drive too far with it, especially at night, and being a girl, because you'd be scared that it would break down in the middle of, nowhere, highway or somewhere, and you're stranded all alone. So if the car has to rest and get fixed, then you're a person. You too.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, it's even I don't know, like, it feels like machines are
treated better.
Like, yeah, treated better than teacher. It's like, oh well, the car. Yeah.
I was gonna say, I realize people are exploited like that though, a lot. In some places more than others. I really don't want to say Mexico per se, because I'm sure it happens in a lot of places. Because right here, I know a few people, but one person in particular I met recently that I've been having conversations with. I'm realizing that he, as well as I'm sure a lot of other people in that factory or plant or whatever company, they don't really know their rights and what they're worth and when to say yes and when to say no. Because first of all, they're paying them 1,200 a week. Okay, and when I heard that, I'm like, get out of here! What the hell do you do with 1,200 pesos though? At 27 years old, what do you do with 1,200 pesos? And then you go to work every day. He gets up at 4:30 a.m. because he needs to get to work for 7, and when he leaves work it's 6 p.m. What? And you're gonna get 1,200 pesos at the end of the week? No. And then he doesn't seem bothered. That's the thing. He doesn't seem bothered. So I'm getting the impression that he doesn't know that this is not normal and it's not right.
Exactly. I was going to ask you this, like, do you think, I mean, of course, when we are talking about this particular school, we are, it's more exemplary. I think the problem is cultural. Like, right? That's what I was going to ask you. Like, teachers, I feel like in general are not that respected. And um, when I say respected, I don't mean by individual people, you know? Yeah, a lot of individual people have a lot of respect for this profession. But when I say respect, I mean like legally we are not supported, system wise we are not supported by the government or anyone that we work for. I think teacher and it's the same in the US. I mean, look at the condition of teachers. Like, they are the ones who are buying supplies for their students, which should be the administration and the government's or the school's responsibility, you know? And the teachers are not only underpaid but severely overworked and like not supported even with basic office supplies. That's outrageous. And I think this is a cultural problem. Nobody gives a shit about teachers. And but then when you know, push comes to shove, it's like, oh, teachers, please save us. Like what happened with COVID-19, like when of course we were shut down for a really long time, and then people were like, no, our kids, what are we are, I mean, I'm sure like they're already tired of their kids, you know, being at home. So they're like, oh, I mean, the kids are not getting enough, you know, brain development. We need our teachers. Okay, so teachers are so important. Then pay them like they are. You know, why are you paying fucking administrators millions of pesos and dollars when ultimately you need the teachers to make these sacrifices for you? Like, you are expecting teachers to go to schools, expose themselves to the virus, and be completely okay with it.
Yeah, it's just a thing, you know, they don't really appreciate. I mean, it happens in a few areas. Like, back to this thing I just mentioned. I know it's not education or teaching, but I just want to mention, like, the receptionist at the school that I work at now. He used to work at that same company, but he was in like in a higher position, right? So he knew like the directors, supervisors, people from accounts, and I don't know where else he mentioned. But anyway, one thing that got me though was he told me that the supervisors there were getting like 17,000 a month, and the managers and directors were getting 46,000 a month, you know? And in my head, I'm like, but everybody else though who does all the job, all the work for you to be in this position where you're getting 47,000 a month, while they're getting 1,200 a week. So at the end of the month, that's what,
Half of their salary.
4,800 a month?
It's less than half of the administrative salary.
That is ridiculous. You know?
Exactly. And I know that this is a case with almost every school in both the US and Mexico, because I know a lot, I have a lot of friends who are teachers in both the US and Mexico, and students also. And they tell me that administrators are overpaid for the little work that they do. And the teachers are severely underpaid, like so underpaid that the teacher has to look for a second or a third job to live by in a comfortable way. Forget about saving.
Honestly, if it hadn't been for like the art pieces that I was selling at the time, my prints and all of that, the events that I was going to while making art and stuff, like I feel like sometimes I did more money going to an art event in San Diego and selling my art there, or like selling like a piece, and that would get me through the month. Cause like I was like, wait, what? Like I can't even buy food. Like I wasn't even paying rent when I was working at Shell. So it was just like, wait. Oh shit.
Like working at Shell, you mean?
Oh, whatever.
Yeah, Mark and I, we also had you know, classes outside this particular school, right? Yeah, there you go.
And every time I think about it, to be honest, you know, I mean, I'm not one to say that I was terribly paid, to be honest. But coming from a country where it's double what I get paid here, because it's in the back of my head, it's like a little tick.
Yeah.
Extra classes for me, and I still do it, and I have even more students now. As private, these private classes, the money I use for like Ubers, going out on weekends, shopping and stuff, so I don't have to paying for a credit card or some things. I don't have to use my salary to do these things, you know, because I'm coming from a place where my salary would just cover everything. I never had a need to have a second job there. They always recommend that you do, because you never know when shit hits the fan. You don't want to be left on your face. But It's since being here, I've had to really think about that rule, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it works. It works.
Mm-hmm.
What
Yeah.
what about your like I remember we started talking about this, but we started talking about other things. Andres brought out this thing about having, you know, people like judge you like for your age or for your race or
It's a real
nationality.
thing. It is.
Like, is that something that you always struggle with, or like what kind of prejudice do people have about you? It can be just like super personal too. Like, I don't know, like you don't look like you can teach me. Like, you know, have you ever had those kinds of stories?
Mm-hmm.
Me,
Yeah.
I've gotten so used to it now. I think it's just that. I think it's a color thing, and also because they'll often ask, you know, where you from, and if they don't get the U.S. and second Britain, oh, okay, so where are you from? You're from Jamaica. Where's that in South of Africa? Oh, okay, it's an
South
island.
Africa?
Oh, yeah, I get that a lot. An island. Again, they never ever say out loud, "Oh, you're from an island and you're black." Okay, you speak Spanish in Jamaica. Why are you gonna teach me English again? Yeah, they always say Spanish. And I'm like, oh, new group. Okay, 2 weeks to get used to each other. Let's do this. I can
Wow.
do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's my take now. When the director says, Mark, you have a new group next week. And this happens very often. Like every 2 or 3 months, we're getting new private students and new groups. And so I'm like, yeah, okay. First 2 weeks, you can get through it. Because you walk in
Mm-hmm.
and you get this look, because they never say, but you know the look after 3.5 years that you're looking at and you're like, okay, this is not what I expected. This is not what I paid for. And then eventually, again, they never say it out loud, but they say little things like, oh, teacher, I think your accent is actually not what I expected, but I like it and I understand everything you say. And I think I'm getting the hang of it. Or they say other things that give me the impression that they didn't think this of me on the first year or the first week, but now after 3 or 4 classes, okay, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
So
know
they're
what you're
getting the hang of it.
that. Like they're saying, oh, okay, Mark, you know what you're doing. I'm here to stay. Uh-huh. That's how I get treated. Again, never in words, and this is me saying in so much, but I know. You just get used to it. You just know what to expect.
Do you get homophobic people?
No, funny enough, I never do. I do hear people make little utterances about family members or friends, but I think I have the kind of personality, and also because you're teachers, some people here have a certain respect for teachers, even though they're not well paid, as you guys say. So, and also because I realize as well as a foreigner, people are able to see you as a foreigner and overlook your flaws because you're interesting otherwise. You're from an island where everybody smokes marijuana. I'm so curious about going to go vacation there, and while you're tall and you're attractive for some people, for others, it's just that you're just not
Yeah.
somebody I see here in Mexico every day. So I feel like sometimes that causes people to overlook the fact that I'm agnostic, the fact that, you know, my
You're
sexual
black.
orientation is not the typical race, and I don't know. But
Mm-hmm.
that's what I get. That's how I, because
I
like
agree with
another
the
teacher got
exoticism
pissed.
part. Yeah.
Sorry.
Like, yeah, I agree with you with the exoticism. Like, people kind of, I don't know, like, you know, they make you feel like, oh, you're so exotic, like you're not from around here, oh my god, your skin color, blah blah blah. Like,
Hmm.
I've gotten that too, but I mean, I kind of expected people to kind of like doubt, like, you're from India and you're gonna teach English, like you don't even have that accent. Like, people have always like told me these things, like, oh, you don't have an Indian accent, or
Oh,
um, you don't sound Indian. I get that a lot, like a lot, and I do understand where they're coming from, but I guess I do have an Indian accent. Yeah, it's probably a little polished, but I do think that I have an Indian accent because
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of my friends and cousins who also speak like me, so I know that I'm not alone in this.
I
And I
hear
also
it when you
get,
get excited or angry. That's when I hear it. I've always felt that.
what?
When I hear Shinjini's Indian accent is when she's super excited or super pissed off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And another thing that I used to get when I was a teacher is my gender. Like, my gender was a problem to some men. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so you guys know that I am like really, you know, organized and very particular about, the decorum of my class. So you have to be on time, you have to do your homework as much as possible, and you don't interrupt the class. You're not unprofessional with your classmates. Like, you maintain the decorum of a class. So when people didn't need that, I used to politely tell them that, yes, you will get a chance to talk, or yes, you will get a chance to say whatever you want to say, but this is the time for learning. This is the time. So I always had to remind certain people, men especially, to kind of like bring it back a little bit. And I noticed that it bothered some men because they were older than me and they were men, and they used to. It was, of course, not over. Nobody said that, women are trash or women can't teach. Like, they never said that to me, but they were always making like these sexist jokes in class. They were always making these sexist jokes, and I never laughed at them. So when they would make those jokes, and I'd be like, I would just like stare at them like,
with those big eyes, you're probably not helping the situation.
Yeah, and I did not entertain that because I thought it was my responsibility as a teacher to make them aware that that was not okay. That was not an okay thing to say in a class with a room full of women. Because I think he was a guy, and there was another guy in the class, and most of the other students were women, and I was a woman. So for him to make such a sexist joke, it was not okay. So when he looked at me and he saw that I wasn't laughing, he was like, "Teacher, I was just kidding. It's like, don't be so serious." And I was like, "That's not funny. I'm sorry, but that wasn't funny." But I saw like the other women students, they were like, like, like an uncomfortable laugh. And I was like, it wasn't funny.
What was that from Andres? Are you saying that that's how they are here?
So the thing, mainly what I got this was, I don't know why, but when I used to go to companies, and where you have like mostly men in higher positions of power, and then women in like more administrative, like secretary, and then you have them all in a classroom, and you have, in my case, a gay teacher and a feminine teacher at that.
Yeah.
It's just like, whenever I see the comparison between when a straight man teaches the class, how the men in the room react, and they're like, they take the teacher seriously and they want to pay attention, and like they are always like careful not to disrespect the teacher, but if they also can be playful and like make these jokes, like sexist jokes, and have no repercussions, and like be inappropriate and make comments about women's bodies and like all of that. But then when you have a teacher who is not straight and male, then it's just like,
One other thing too is that you're Mexican, because for me, I'm gringo. So I don't see how much different I am from you. I think it's very obvious when you look at me. And if nothing I hide, I talk about who I go out with on weekends. And I'll say I went out with Gabriel. Obviously, that's going to be a guy or whatever. So people know. But I never really get treated, not by any guy whatsoever. And so the only difference between Andres and myself is that he's Mexican. And where I'm from in Jamaica, what I've seen is like, if you're a Jamaican, you're supposed to be like this. But when a tourist comes to the island, or there's a foreigner living and working with us, he gets away. He's American. It's okay. Or he's white. It's a white disease. Don't worry about it. But you're black. You're supposed to be. And I'm like, fuck.
Yeah, exactly. So what I find interesting here is also like the parallels between the students, how straight male students don't take women or feminine or gay teachers as seriously as they do, like straight male teachers. And that also mirrors how the administration reacts to any questioning or any requests from any straight man. Like when we were almost about to, get out of that place, Shinjini and I, Shinjini and I were in a meeting where there were also other straight male coworkers with us.
Yeah.
Whenever we made a point or asked a question, we would get a response that would be like, Oh, well, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, and then we would be questioned, and then we would not get a straight answer. We would not get the request validated from the. We would always be like
Swept under
questions,
the rug.
and yeah, like excuses, nothing. So like, if we requested something like, can we see our contract? They were like, well, not really, because blah blah blah, and and I got this like really passive aggressive comment of like, well, you do have time to send emails complaining about not being paid, but you don't have time to grade your exams on time. And then whenever another male counterpart was like, "Oh, but can you take this suggestion so we can get paid in time?" And then the administrator was like, "Yeah, for sure, I'll make that note." And then she was like,
Yes,
"Well, that's
that was
interesting."
like
That's
that was
interesting.
very surprising, and I actually didn't realize that. I just thought that they were like her favorites or something. But then there was a pattern that Andres made me notice. Like, why are all her favorites straight males? All of them. Like, what's up with that? And I was like,
And I don't think it's a question of like favoritism. It's just a question of like respect and authority. So if you think highly of someone or you think that you are at the same level as them, then you will respect them. But if you think, oh, she's a woman, or he's gay, or he's young, or whatever, or he's from another country, or whatever, it just changes the power dynamic, and they're like, oh well, I can be a little bit more dismissive with this type of people, and it's
With
almost
these straight,
unconscious.
with these straight counterparts, just a question: was it a case in which she was not very close to them? Because I'm kind of trying to, I'm trying to understand if also the ones who she was, closer with or to, like, us here were, like, is it because of the friendship? Maybe it affected her judgment. That's what I'm trying to understand. Do you think that could be it as well?
Maybe, but it's also a coincidence that all the friendships or all the people that she would joke around with and be like, hi, casual, were also just straight men, which is like,
yeah.
like, okay, why don't I see you joking this way? Or the other person that was the lead teacher, and then the direct supervisor from us, she would get very patronizing comments, like and she would get yelled at like she was a child, and because she was female and she was like black and from another country, right? And whenever, like, you would never hear the director, talk to any male teacher that way, ever. Like, you've never heard that. In
my 3 years there, I have never heard her yell at a man, a straight man, that is, because I remember. Do you remember this guy? I don't know. Should I take his name? He was one of our coworkers. He was the oldest, like, I think age-wise and experience-wise. He was like half bald, wore glasses, and he was a part-time teacher there. I think he still is.
Yeah, I think so too.
This guy had a lot of problems with the administrator, with this particular director. I know that because he used to tell me. He was like, oh, this is not okay. I'm going to talk to the director about it. I'm going to do this. I was like, are you sure? Because I was always like wary of her mood swings, I was like, are you sure? I hope she doesn't yell at you. Let me know how it goes. Like, I used to, like, warn him. And later on, he would just tell me, I was like, how did it go? Like, did she yell at you? Was she, like, mad at you? And he was like, no, we had a really good conversation. She was very understanding, and she said that she's going to look into it. I was like,
well, that's not the case when I bring up something up, like, literally.
I was like, both Mark and I got yelled at, like, for the same reason. And you were just, like, understood suddenly. Like, suddenly she was, like, so understanding towards you. And when Mark and I, we, like, even remotely indicated that, she was like, so ungrateful. Like, that was her attitude. Like, we were so ungrateful.
Yeah.
Wait, when you requested your vacation or something, was that the situation, or?
Yeah, requesting vacation, days off, asking for travel money. All of these were like big, hot issues that are still there. And whenever we brought that up, even politely, nicely, whatever, it was like, you want a day off? You want more money? how dare you? How dare you? Like that was the attitude that I got. Or it was either that or it was yeah, but I mean, you could like not. I mean, you could just like wake up earlier, like work harder, give us free labor. I mean, and not complain about it, even though you're sick. Like that would be great. Thank you. Like that's the attitude I got. Either of the
Like
two.
Siri, I would so watch it every day.
It would be like, oh well, I forgot what I was gonna say. Anyways.
I was going to say the same thing, I guess, because I remember that you had a similar situation with the director being like patronizing and
She never took me seriously.
gaslighting you sometimes too.
And I could,
as well.
I do think I am kind of like, I don't know, I have some sort of like, I'm really perceptive to people's like emotions and like moods and almost like thoughts. Not really thoughts, but like what I know when people are being genuine or not, and I can feel it in my body. Like I literally feel it in my body when someone's being like this, like fake. I don't know how to say how else to say it, or like I feel it, and that whenever I got near, I could never explain why. I was just always like.
Do.
Beep beep.
There's gonna be so many beeps.
But I can see I would see that with other people that I know for a fact that she probably wasn't fond of. So yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
The being fake part, because she would have to be professional, so she wouldn't, unless something really did happen and then she had to shout at the person. But my point is, like, I've seen her knowingly that she does not like or didn't like that person, but she was being super nice with them before their faces, or his or her face, right? And so you look at it like, wow, well, this is professionalism or courtesy, or I don't know what you want to call it, but yeah, that's when you can see it.
I don't care. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've talked a lot about our negative experiences as a teacher, and we stopped teaching. What has been the most positive experience with you guys as a teacher?
And to start. Oh, okay. My most positive experience, in general, every time like a student learns something new, or like you know that a student has been struggling with something like a structure, and then suddenly they say it, I'm like, what? You did that? Oh my god! Like I get a little bit excited. But I think my proudest moment was like outside this company. I was teaching privately one of my students from that same company, but to pass a test, the TOEFL, right? And we went at it for 6 months, like literally half a year. I was preparing her to pass this test, and it was really important for her because it was the last chance for her to pass the test. Otherwise, she wouldn't get her master's degree, like you know. And so I was just like, you can do this, while you're ready. At the end of the training and everything, and she finally passed, and she got her master's degree, and I was like, I was part of that. I was like, yes, I'm so proud of you. I'm so happy that you.
Was this at Shell?
Sorry?
Was this at Shell?
Shell company.
Was it at the Shell?
Oh no. I mean,
in the Shell?
no, not in it, but I met her in Shell.
Andres, do you
cry
when your students do really well? Have you ever cried or become teary-eyed?
No, I don't think I've ever cried. I think I got emotional one time when a group finished and they came back and they got me like a cake, and they were like, you were the best teacher ever, and blah 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 and all of that. Whenever a student brings me something like, oh, here's a chocolate, teacher, because you're so cool, and I'm like, thank you, because like, especially with like younger students, I keep it real. I'm like, okay guys, like let's go, and let's do this. Like I don't care. I don't need to put on the facade of being like a professional adult. I'm like, I'm your age or even younger than you. So I'm going to keep it real. We're going to have a good time. I'm going to answer any questions that you have. I'm not going to be strict or anything. I mean, of course, if there's respect, there's respect. But usually with people my age, I don't really have I've never had any problems with people, like younger people, like in their 20s. they were always super cool. They were always super nice. Like they have I think the older generations lack some sort of like little gene thingy from like
Yeah.
like
Because I'm about to mention something similar.
yeah.
I feel the same about, and for me, anybody like above 45, I just expect it to be a little bit challenging. Some of them, yeah, they surprise you, but like anybody over 50, 60, for me, in the back of my head, I'm like, why now? Just let it go. But you can't tell people that. You can't tell people that, and I have had one or two experiences where they actually do well, but for the most part, in my experience, mm-mm.
Mark is like, work on your coffin, not on your linguistic skills.
I was thinking morning coffee, but okay.
See, talk to people about how you wish to be buried.
Yes.
Not in English.
Yeah, but you cannot shut them down because again, I have been surprised about 3 or 4 times. Once at Baka, the company, the oldest lady in the group was the smartest one.
Mhm,
And she came
mhm.
in knowing nothing, while the younger people, they were all like 22, 20, 22, one I think was like 48, 45, probably older, because she even has grandchildren. The younger ones were struggling and she was just getting everything. It's either she had a really good study tactic or something. I don't know, but she was doing really. I was like, wow.
Yeah, smart people are smart people. Like,
Yeah,
Or
right.
if you want something, you get it, you do it.
yeah, it's the
That's the
attitude.
thing.
Also,
Uh-huh.
like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it. Yeah,
Mhm.
if you, because some students come into the classroom being like, oh well, but why is this? Oh, but why is that? And some students are just like, okay, I understand. Moving on, like that's it. And then
Yeah.
they're like,
Yeah.
they don't
You
question
see,
it.
when you mentioned that, but the only problem I'm having right now, because I've learned to work around everything, but there's one thing I cannot get around where you, because from Shell, there's a thing I've learned to exhaust every way possible of getting a student to understand something without having to say, okay, black is negro in Spanish, or rojo, red, red. So, okay, what I do is I say black, okay? Black, color, black, and color is color in Spanish, just like you
Yeah.
say color, okay? So,
Mhm.
color, okay? Black, black. You go through 5 or 6 things saying black. Teacher, ¿qué es black? Sí, pero ¿qué es la palabra en español? Black. And I do it again. Okay,
Oh
Arturo.
my God.
Color, black. Okay, black.
But
Black,
they
see,
just want you to say
black.
the word. They just want
Yeah.
you to say the
They
word.
want
It's
you to
driving
say
me
the
up
word.
the wall. I'm like,
Like use your brain a little bit. I don't know. Get the wheel turning.
yeah. And you get one of them every now and then, but when they come along, oh my God, and you know it from the first class. They
You
want
Yeah.
you to
know
pronounce
it.
every single
Oh my god.
word. Ugh, yeah.
Yes. Yes. You
And
know
I
your
don't think
language.
I'm overreacting. Do you think I'm overreacting? I
No,
don't think I
No,
am.
I know exactly what type of student you're talking about, and they are either always they never do their homework, they don't do the effort, and then they're like, "Oh, teacher, but like this," and I'm like, I would have a little bit more compassion for your pace of learning if I saw that you made the effort. But if
Exactly.
you're arriving late, not coming to class, not doing your homework, and on top of that, you're like, uh,
You're right. Because I asked, what about the homework or what I asked you to do over the weekend? And you're like, pues es que la novia. Y tuve una carne asada ayer. Y los niños. Tengo mucho trabajo, teacher. Lo siento, pero no lo hice. And I'm like, oh, well, this is why we're having problems. In my head, I'm like, we're having problems just because of that attitude.
is the attitude.
And for me, those
Yes.
students, I don't care about the money. I
Yeah.
really, moments like those, I realize, they're paying me to teach you, and I do put my best out for every student. But people like you, I say no to money for.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking
Mm-hmm.
of slow students, do you remember like this really hard student that we had, Andres?
Oh yeah, but you know what? The attitude, like she came already like with
The
an attitude
model,
that she wanted to learn. She did
She
want to
did.
learn,
She
and
did.
she was genuinely like struggling. I
Yeah.
could tell she. I don't know if it was her upbringing or something. It's just like different smart skills. Everyone has like their own area, and hers was not languages or retention.
Yeah.
So but she passed, and you can tell that she was like trying her hardest, and so that's why I appreciated that student.
The lingerie
Exactly.
model?
Huh?
The lingerie model?
She was a model of sorts. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, she's kind of a model, like, I mean, not like the fashion models that we know, but she, you know, she has like a whole online business and, you know, stuff going on. And she was like really pretty, and she has a, you know, like she's attractive. And so, and because I remember like she always used to turn heads, like whenever she came to the school. But, you know, in many ways, she defied what people think about, you know, pretty women like her. She was extremely humble, let me tell you. She had no, like, when she came to class, she was humble AF. She was never like showing off any of her possessions or her body or whatever. She was just there as a normal person trying to learn English, and she struggled, like, and she was struck, and I felt like she kind of got into her head a bit, because she was not only struggling because this is a super foreign language to her, but it was also because she was judging herself for it, and then she was also feeling bad because she saw her teacher struggle. So it was, and she was feeling even worse because of that. So it was like kind of this cycle that she got stuck in, and she was very like particular about not being able to translate. Like, she really wanted us to translate for her, you know, she really did. And sometimes I would, because I saw her like, you know, like if she was like sometimes one of those students, like you say black, 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 and she would still be like, K is black, you know, or she would forget about it. She would be like, oh, black, yeah, like,
yeah, she would be like, yeah, like she thought she got it, and then 5 minutes later,
yeah, when you test her, like she didn't get it. But you're absolutely right, Andres. Like, she had a great attitude. She was really humble, and it was, I really liked teaching her. Like, even though she was difficult to teach, but I really liked teaching her because of her attitude.
Definitely a challenge, but nothing that, you know, she, at the end of the day, she got to level 2, I think, right?
Yeah, she did. I think it just took longer. It took longer for her to reach there, but she did. I think that's what matters. Yeah. That's what matters. Like, you keep at it, and even if it takes you time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Emma, what about you? Your most positive experience?
That's a good question. You know, besides meeting all of you guys at Shell. Okay, actually, I think probably the most positive one, but also it's kind of sad at the same time, which is probably why I remember it. When I was working at the secondary school, the kids, it was during like recess. So during recess, even the teachers can just be out around the school doing whatever. And so I was sitting there like eating a sandwich outside, and the kids, like the group of my students, just came over to me and they were like, teacher, we just wanted to tell you that we wanted you to know that we really like you teaching us because you're the only one who teaches us. And I'm like, what?
What? Really?
I was like, excuse me, what? And
what does she mean?
Yeah, I was like, I wanted, it's like, okay. And then one of them started saying, like, the other English teacher, all he does is he makes us write. Because she had a twin sister who was with the other English teacher, and he said he just made them write down what was in the book, and that's it. That was the class. And I was teaching them how to speak. I was teaching them how to, you know.
Like, you were invested in them.
You know, I was invested in them actually learning, which, you know, was really heartbreaking at the end, because it was like the administration didn't actually want me teaching them at all. They wanted me to do what the other teacher was doing. And I was like, I can't do this. I cannot not teach them. You're paying me to teach, and you don't want me to teach them. I can't do this. Like,
that's so weird.
And then there was like a drive-by shooting near the school, and I was like, okay, bye. I was like, yeah, no, it's not safe here. Let's see you later.
Tijuana things.
It's like, but yeah, it's like that moment really like stuck to me. And I was like, what is wrong with Mexico's, educational system?
Yeah.
Like, that is what And that's when I was like, okay, I'm not gonna do public school ever again. It's just not worth it. And they did call me several times to see if I wanted to teach in a different, because once you're in like the public school system, you're like in it forever. So they'll call you and be like, hey, there's spaces at this school. Do you want? And I'm like, lose my number. Thank you and goodbye.
But was the private experience better though?
I think kind of like the only thing that made private experience better was that you got to know your students more. Because when you're teaching like 3 classes of 40 kids, it's just
it's not personalized anymore.
It's not the same. And if one kid is struggling, you can't stop the whole class for the one kid that's struggling. You just can't. And you can't like say, okay, like at recess, do you want to do like extra lessons so that you can catch up to your peers? You're not allowed to do that. So you can't even help them. Like I would give them like extra stuff like, okay, here's a couple of YouTube videos you guys can watch. I even said, okay, I'm going to, tomorrow I'm going to come to school with a website so that you guys can practice while you're at home and stuff like that. And even that was like frowned upon, like giving them other places to look to learn was frowned upon. And I was like, okay. Yeah. And then when I was working at the first school that I worked at, I'm going to call it Speaker. So when I was working at Speaker, it was a very laid back kind of environment. I was more of an English tutor than I was an English teacher. So it was like the students would learn by themselves. If they had questions, they would come to you and ask a question. It's like that was the structure. And then you would give them a test at the end of every lesson. After they decided, oh yeah, I'm ready. I know this. And then you would give them a test.
Okay.
And that was the way that worked. And then when I went to Shell, at Shell, it was like, if I didn't have all of the extra things, like there's no way I could possibly have been able to teach at Shell. Like, so I had to be like, okay, so for homework, do the unit homework, but also like, here's a YouTube video for you to watch. Here's a website that you guys should be able to read, this kind of stuff. And I spent so much money when I was working at Shell. Like I bought expensive things to try and make the teaching easier. I bought a projector. And it was like, yeah, I bought a projector and then I stopped working there a month later, basically. So it was like, now I have a projector.
Moving
at
on.
least. So it's like, if anybody wants to see a movie on the wall, let me know. I
remember it.
I didn't know you bought that for your students. I thought it was just like a personal investment.
No, it's like I bought it because I had a small laptop. The screen was very small, and I was like, I need something bigger. Like I can't be drawing every single thing. It'll take too long.
Yeah.
And so it's just not just a bunch of pictures. And then I was also cutting out things from the workbook so that it could be huge on the wall. And it's like, okay, we're here. And just
it got even worse because then they wouldn't even let us print because it would cost them money.
Exactly, yeah.
Yes. Oh my God, such a fucking challenge, bro.
What?
It was like you had to find other ways, and then it's like if you wanted to teach at Shell, you had to be willing to spend your own money to make it easier on your students.
Or have give lower quality education.
Yeah, exactly.
Students, because they wouldn't spend any money. How long have we been telling them to fix the computer and buy another projector? Do you remember? It was a long time ago.
Ever since I started working there.
I think I ended up fixing the computers by the time before I left.
Oh, they broke again.
Like I fixed 3 of them, and then I was like, well, the last one I don't know what to do with.
Oh yeah, you fixed everything, and then they were like, well, there's no internet anymore in this room. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like,
why do we even have this room? Like, why did it not be converted to a teacher's lounge?
That room was gossip room for administrators. They used to like all get in there and bitch about all the teachers.
But you could hear everything from the room.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah, you could hear it through the vent.
Yeah, I was always there whenever like, I mean.
Being-
You're so used to being liberal and free, just comes naturally.
yeah. Emma's like editing.
I'm like, gosh darn it, 151.
It could be worse, Emma. It could be worse. Trust me.
Yeah, we haven't. I don't have a lot that I have to edit out. Stuff.
I can recall just 5, probably 7 talks.
Yeah.
Just leave it in. Let
It's
them
hard
know.
though.
I
It's
know,
hard
right?
to like not say it because I was like almost gonna say it.
Can we get sued for that? Like,
I don't know. I
A
don't
company
know.
like that, probably.
do you think they care enough?
I don't
I
think.
don't
so.
think so. The
I
ones here, but we don't know who they are down south or
Yeah.
wherever. So maybe the ones here know they don't, but maybe elsewhere they do. It's the same franchise.
Yeah.
And Mark,
Anyways.
we're saying that you had like very similar experience, with Andres, like when it comes to like positive teaching experience.
I mean, right off the bat, for me, I feel like the best thing is working with a group or private student who meets you halfway, because they don't always. And like mornings where I have to wake up 6 a.m. or 5:30 a.m. and I know that it's a student or a group that meets me halfway, where English or class or homework or everything is concerned in the classroom. It's like drag to get up, yes, at 5 a.m. But when you remember, oh, I've got Lewis today. Oh, okay, let's do
Yeah.
this. Because when you get into class, oh, it's like normal,
Yeah.
Like,
Hey,
hi, friends.
fine. And then that leads right into, I've probably taught around 300 people since I've been here, I want to say, give or take. But out of all of that, I can recall about 4 people who are still with me, taking
Yeah.
lessons with me, 2 privately and 2 in the school. One even left Shell and went with me when he discovered I was leaving. He changed schools and he's still there and he still does private classes with me on the weekends. My point is I met all 4 of these people with just hello as vocabulary. And now 2.5 years, going 3 years later, we only talk in English. And that for me is
That's amazing.
That's amazing.
yeah, there's this feeling. It's really difficult to put into words, but it's awesome. It's really, really fulfilling. And yeah, the point is, a lot of people come, and yeah, they do improve. A lot of them, a few don't. Those they come and they leave within a month or 2. A lot of people improve, but the true essence and idea of becoming fluent, I can say I've really experienced that between 3 people, tops 4, because I'm not really sure what the 4th person is really doing right now, because I occasionally see them. But these 3 people, out of 300, 3 people, it's worth it. You feel
Yeah.
like so that's the
I
best
agree.
experience.
Like I think, and I said this, I think before to my students too, that despite teaching being so grueling, not because teaching as a concept or as a profession is grueling, but because there is no support whatsoever, and there is so much pressure to perform without any support. Like it really takes a toll on your mental health. At least it did for me. But what made it all worth it were my students. Like their attitude towards me, the way they treated me, the way they respected me, the way they loved me. And I really felt that. I really did feel that in many ways. Like when they would like bring food at the end of the class, or they would invite me to dinner. Stay in touch even when the group is over. Stay friends, stay in touch, and come back. And like I would be the first person they think of when they know that they need some guidance on improving their English. Like when I see that happening, when I see them coming back, being in touch, talking to me, treating me as their friend almost, it is just so fulfilling. I loved meeting new people, all the time, getting to know them, that whole process of getting to know them, dealing with them, helping them, that whole process was so fulfilling. Because as you guys said, that when you started with them, they were like, oh, hello, hi, and they were so shy and they couldn't like say one sentence, but then now they are telling me about experiences with their English. You know, like, oh, I went to this party and people, and I could like really understand what these native English speakers were saying, and I could communicate with them. Like when they tell me about their real world experiences and how I have contributed to that, that is just like makes all the hard work, all the bullshit from the administrators like so worth it. And you cannot put a price on that. You cannot.
You know what? I just remembered another moment. It was like when I was teaching, I taught this woman from like level 3, then level 4, and then level 5. I think level 5 was when you start GBE, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's like important.
Yes.
But yeah, I remember that, and then we were going through the presentation like chapter and stuff, and this woman had like a presentation to go through, and she asked me to like review it for her and everything, and she if she did well with this presentation, she would get like a raise and everything and a new job position, and she got it, and I was like, oh my god, like nice.
Yeah.
Or
Just
also
like
when your students also follow you on Instagram, that's a nice feeling too.
for me, it's kind of creepy sometimes, but you
Yeah.
It was creepy to me before I used to post like a lot more like explicit stuff, but like and when I was still teaching them, I was like, no, don't follow me, please. Like
For me, we're like adults. I accept them, but yeah, it's kind of creepy sometimes. Just this week, a student of mine is a girl I've been hanging out a lot with recently, who was just a student, but now we've become friends. Before the class began, she was like, "I have something to tell you." She was so excited, and she does this thing every time she gets excited. And like that's
so
what
weird.
happened, because she always tells me about her boyfriends or she goes to dinner or whatever, because she goes out a lot. But she was like, I went to, I think it was Plaza America, she said, in San Diego or wherever it is across the border. I've never been to the US. And she's like, somebody asked her in English, where's the exit? Right? And she was like, oh, the exit is just that way and down the stairs, and then you make a right. That was it. And this girl is so excited, over the moon about, and in my head, because I'm being a hypocrite about it. I'm like, yay! And in my head, I'm like, really, Jess? He asked you where the exit was. And you're over the moon, and it's just why you stopped my class. And then I realized when I met her last year, it was August 10th. She was one of them as well. She was born in Texas, but she's never lived there. She came back here as a baby. She lived in Puebla her entire life. She's now 21. So now, and a lot of students are like that as well, where they're Americans by birth, but they've never lived there and they're coming from the south, so they really just speak Spanish. So with this girl now, that's how she came to me, not knowing anything, but knew she needed to learn English because she has plans of going there and living there one day. And now that she's 21, she crosses very often. So for her, it's one of the biggest achievements in her life. And you cannot take that from her.
Yeah.
You just have to support her and be there with her. And also, after having said that, she was like, "It's you, Mark. Thank you so much." And that for me was like, "Oh."
It is one of the best feelings.
Yes.
Honestly.
It's a sentence. Where's the exit?
Yeah, but you have to start. You have to start somewhere. You know.
Exactly, because she's saying like a few months ago she wouldn't be able to even identify the word is in a sentence like that, and even to respond, and for her not to be in Spanish we say "hice bolas," to be all up there with the balls, you know. Yeah, that was
Not the
a
ball.
moment.
So would you guys recommend people to be teachers, or what advice do you have for people who are thinking of becoming teachers, or already are? What advice or recommendation do you have for them?
Go towards tutoring, not so much teaching. I think starting with tutoring is so much easier and so much. I mean, I don't know. I don't know, really.
I mean,
I would say try to find another thing.
another thing. I mean, I would ask one of my first questions is, are you a patient person? Because you need patience, girl. And if you consider yourself patient, you can sit before an entire class that's pissing you off and driving damn goddamn wall at least.
Yes.
Yes. You have any more questions? Okay, question. And in my head, I'm like, somebody just asked that 5 minutes ago. Where were you? If you have patience, yes. number one for me is patience. And two, you have to know when to say I don't know. I've learned to say I don't know. A student asked me yesterday in business English that I'm teaching now, which is you guys I'm never a fan. He said, he said a sentence with twitch, and for me, a twitch is when you suddenly jerk your body or something.
Mm-hmm.
But for him, that's not a twitch, because how I use it for him, he was telling me that I'm wrong. I'm like, no, I'm not wrong. And then he told me what twitch was. Twitch is putting some little photo on a video that you're watching. If you click, it leads you to an announcement to promote something. And I'm like, really?
Well, that must be like a neat, like the specific term for the kind of like.
I discovered that it's a jargon. It's used in business and marketing.
Oh, see, I didn't know.
So I had to go to Google immediately and look, because he explained it to me, and it's not that I doubted him. He's a super smart person, but I really needed to see for myself because it's my language, and I'm not saying I should know everything or know it. I know everything. It's just that twitch for me is a word I use so often.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've never heard it used that way before, and he was right. And you know, I told him I didn't know that. Thank you. I learned something from you. You know, so for me, is. And that's why I never have students call me teacher. I hate it. I never. Like they call me Mark. I say, do not call me teacher, because here I feel like in Mexico, because this doesn't happen in Jamaica. The word teacher for them is like, I'm here and they're here. I do not like that. And I feel like when they call me Mark, I always see the difference. There's more confidence, and everybody, it's more like we're friends, but with respect. So you don't disrespect me now because you're calling me Mark and no longer teacher. No, they don't do that. And that's what I'm happy for. Because if that were the case, then I probably have to rethink this thing that I always do with everyone that comes into my class. But they don't do that. So it's fine. I tell them, don't call me teacher. My name is Mark from the first day. Because they're more comfortable, and I find that more learning takes place when they see you as a friend than sir or teacher.
Yeah.
That's what I've done.
Yeah.
And it works for me.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think it's really nice. It does influence the dynamic, because especially in Mexico, I don't know how it is in other parts of the world, but before, and I remember this even from my childhood, we used to have a little wooden like thing that was like about this big, where the teacher would like stand the whole class. Like the desk was always above that like wooden like platform,
The little
and it was like this big, and it would be like the desk, and then the teacher would stand there. And of course, in a big classroom, it's helpful because you can like kind of see the teacher up there, you know, if it's big. But also, it just creates like a power dynamic where you feel like you're less than the teacher, and the teacher needs to be above you all the time.
Yeah,
that's
just not the case anymore.
That's something that is super Indian. I can say that because in India, teacher is not your equal, and they know everything, and you don't know nothing. And it was always like that. That power dynamic is everywhere, whether that's in school, university, wherever you go. Like, you don't call them by their name. You say teacher or miss whatever, Mrs. whatever, Mr. whatever, you know? So it's like, yeah, but I really appreciate Mark's, attitude to make everybody comfortable with him so that they can learn. Because I think learning a language is kind of like that. You have to relax. If you're not relaxed, you will not be able to learn. Because a lot of this cerebral activity of learning a language is a lot about how you feel about yourself.
Exactly. Because I'm just about to get to that. That a lot of what I do as well, sometimes it's me being selfish. What do I mean? Yeah, it helps them. But guess what? When it helps them, it helps you. Because it clears up a lot of confusion and people not feeling confident and secure enough around you. When they feel secure and confident around, they'll ask their questions, they'll clarify things, they'll say how they feel, and learning is easier.
Yeah.
So it's also helping you as a person, or me. Because this is me. It's my situation. It's how I deal with it, and it's worked for me, and I continue to do it because it's worked.
Emma, do you have any advice?
Let's see. My advice for anyone who's thinking about going into teaching, first, get a customer service job and see how people will actually disrespect you. And how the administration is going to disrespect you. And then remember how administration treats you. And then forget how people treat you, because it's less likely that your students are going to treat you that way. But remember that administration is going to be like assholes to you the whole time that you're working. and say goodbye to your free time because you're not going to have any. They're going to be like, oh, no, we get the same vacations as the children, and that's not true. You have to go into school during summer vacation and do things, prepare classes, and then after work you have to grade all of the things that you did, and it's just, you're not going to have free time ever again, or money, because all your money's going to go to your students, and you're going to have to get used to falling in love with other people's children if you're going to teach children, and getting used to liking a whole bunch of people, and then one day they probably won't be there because they decided they didn't want to continue the class, and you'll be very upset. And you will miss them, and that's just the way it is.
Sounds really specific.
Oh, right. It's like there were moments, like I can say those secondary students, they were annoying. They were like 11. And they're preteens. They have all the hormones. They smell bad. It was not fun, but I liked them as people. They were all right. They were okay. They had interesting.
No, I'm never teaching children ever again. I had that experience with summer camp, and
yeah, like
I mean,
you need more patience being a teacher, I think, than most other careers.
Yeah,
you need more patience, and you need to be able to detach your emotions from what you're teaching, which is very difficult.
Sometimes I have to catch my eye rolling. I don't roll them a lot, but something happens, and I'm like, fuck, I know we're doing everything on Zoom, and like, Jesus have mercy, we're recording, and I just rolled my eyes on camera.
You're just like,
yeah, the point is, patience, a lot of patience is needed. Another thing I'd probably mention is, if you're a native coming in, especially if you're coming from another country here, you probably want to ask how much percentage of the staff or teachers has native other native teachers, right? Because where I'm at now, I'm the only native, right? There among 6 other people. And what I've found, because coming from Shell, predominantly everybody, was a native. So you had a lot to work around. But where I'm at now, I'm basically the only one. And what has been happening almost a year and a half now is a lot of people come in and they're like, I want the native. Oh, he's a native. Oh, I've been to his class and I really like it. Oh, the way he explains things, because this is language, it's way better than everybody else here. And I say that to say that your time, you might not have any time because you're in so much demand that they even take your lunchtime from you and fling classes inside of it. And you wake up and you start 7 a.m. and you leave at 9 p.m. and you had 1 hour for lunch. And the rest of the day you spend hoping a student cancels so you can get at least 2 hours today. That happens. And I mean, at Shell, that wouldn't happen so much. Yes, we'd be there for long days, but we'd have like little 3 hours or 4 hours. But this, sometimes, not even so, just an hour. And sometimes it's like they want to take the hour from you, even they're on. And that's just because everybody keeps coming in. And I would do the same, because when I take Spanish classes, I make sure that it's a Mexican. I live in Mexico, hello, and it's one of the best Spanish in the world, so it makes sense. I get it why they want the native. But yeah, as you coming in as a native into the school, the system, wherever you're getting hired, I mean, the next time around, if there's a next time, I would probably ask, how many natives are there as teachers? What percentage do you have? Is it equal? Because if it's just 1 or 2 and the rest are predominantly Mexican, we're living in Mexico, I'd probably have to think twice, because I know what's going to come.
Yeah, you're right. My advice would be that teaching is hard, not because, it's because of, how you teach or the methods or the students. I think you can get around that. I honestly feel so. Like, if you have, as Mark said, like, if you have the patience, if you have the attitude, the aptitude, if you're a people's person, you like meeting new people, you like helping them, I think definitely teaching is a job for you. but the system is something that could ruin it for you. So it's really a matter of choice. Like, so going ahead prepared, with that mentality that, okay, administrators are going to be dicks. I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
Then yeah, I mean, go for it. But if you're not okay with administrators not supporting you and helping you out, I mean, don't go there. I mean, I think that a lot of private schools probably don't make their teachers struggle that much, because they, fill them with resources and supplies. I mean, I'm talking about other countries. I'm not talking about the US, Mexico, or even India, like Thailand, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Great, amazing country. Like, so there are other countries where, the administration is not that bad. I mean, they are kind of more or less dicks everywhere, but I mean, I think to a lesser degree in other countries, probably. So I think you just have to see what you're getting into. But know that administrators are going to be, to some extent, a dick to you. So you have to really select the school where they are lesser dicks, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's possible, unionize your, go to a country or a place where there are unions of teachers, of the type of teacher that you are, like whether that's language or, early education or university, whatever that is. Make sure that there are unions. If there are unions, there's a 90% chance that your rights will be protected, or 99% chance actually that your rights will be protected, and there will be a place to go when you have your grievances. Your grievances will probably be addressed. So these are some of the things. So check if there are unions. If not, see that you are really well paid, and that the administration is a lesser dick than other schools. Because I'll tell you what, I got this offer to teach at China, but I couldn't go because of some visa issues. They were going to, and I was going to teach university students. So they were paying me $2,500 a month. Okay. And I didn't have to pay rent because it was covered. It was within the university campus. Like I could live in my own apartment, a small apartment, 1 BHK, not a big one, one bedroom, hall, kitchen apartment. It was completely paid for, and it was right in the campus, so no transportation, just cycle or walk there. And I think the student ratio was like 20, 1:20. And lunch was, of course, from the university. Everything else, like, it was your expense. That is amazing. Okay, that is amazing. I mean, I don't know like how the administration was. It seemed cool though. Like China seemed like really pretty cool country to teach at. But at the last moment, they kind of changed their visa rules, which I didn't meet, so I couldn't go. But I probably would have. So really choose because I can say that you don't have to suffer. That's all I would say. Like there are schools, there are countries where teachers are not treated like shit. So if you are open to going to and exploring these countries and learning a new language, meeting new people, do that. But know that administration will be at some level a dick to you. That's just
on the note of challenge, just one quick point. I remember my first challenge was, and this will happen if you're not from the US or England, it could be harder to get a spot, because they'll tell you straight up. I got turned on by several schools in several countries, Nicaragua, Colombia, which is really where I wanted to go. So it was like a heartbreak every time that I got an email saying, no, you're not from the United States or England, you have to be from one of two, sorry.
They cannot do that in Europe though. It's against their anti-discrimination laws, but a lot of schools did that.
I got that, and I felt like shit. When you really want something and you want to go, and they're telling you you're not good enough. Your English is not good enough. You need to be an American, and I don't know. It was, but the point is, expect that if you're not from the US or UK, you're bound to be turned down by one or two, probably by a lot. But don't give up. Just keep trying. Something will turn out.
There are countries where they do not discriminate. I mean, it might take a while. And I hope that thing changes though. Like I hope that credentials, your background, your experience should count as
I was gonna say that,
experience, and not your passport or your citizenship. So I hope that changes. But yeah, I mean, it's not an easy world out there. There's a lot of struggle for people of color. Um, and but well, these are the challenges, and then you have to make a choice whether you want to go for it or not.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
It's
I
just
think,
what it is.
yeah. I think another thing that you should, if you're planning on going into like private practice, we're talking about working with private schools.
Yeah.
If the school has a huge turnaround for teachers,
Turnover.
a huge turnover, like maybe double, like think about that for a little while longer.
I think
Yeah.
Glassdoor opinions also help.
Yes.
You should check it out.
Mhm.
Always check out like their rating and what employees are saying. I mean, there are always people who would complain, but if mostly it is positive, okay. But if it's mostly negative and it's the same negative complaint, I would be wary.
Yeah. I don't think Shell had a bad rating on Glassdoor before Tom and I put ours.
I saw a couple. Not
But the thing is, the brand is what sells for that.
Exactly. When I checked the reviews for the brand, and the brand was like, "Oh, this awesome, this method, blah blah blah."
I saw
But
one
I
review
didn't
that
check like that particular school, that particular branch. Which I should have, I think.
Yeah.
Now
I remember seeing it. It's like the McDonald's of language schools.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
Oh my
I
god.
was like, wow. Anyways.
Oh my god.
Well,
That was funny.
I think we've come to the end of our conversation.
Mhm.
We've been
Yeah.
for 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
I think.
So, in conclusion, what would you say, Emma? What did we talk about?
In conclusion, we have come to the conclusion that even though teaching is difficult, it can have great challenges and eat at your wallet like nothing else on the face of the planet. It's rewarding in the end, and I'm not sure if it's worth it.
She had to go spoil it with that last.
Yeah. Yeah, I would just say that teaching is amazing, one of the most fulfilling jobs that I've ever done. But yeah, we have to make it better for teachers, dude.
Agreed.
Like, the world needs to change. The world needs to be better, show up for teachers' mental health and struggles. And as long as the world does that, I think we're going to be good. Because I think people are realizing now, especially because of COVID-19, that we need teachers more than ever.
Yeah.
With education and, our neurodevelopment. So.
Well, remember, in their head, they're thinking babysitter, but okay, teachers.
Yeah.
Teachers.
No, I do see. It's not my word. I mean, I would. It's the parents who are like, "Where are the teachers? We need to push them to schools." And so it's just like, well, now you know. Now you know that how important teachers are. And I wish that teachers were treated as babysitters, because then they would be paid, well.
You think?
Yes,
babysitters are paid very well.
Really well.
Wow.
Really, really well. Per hour, I think it's more than what teachers are.
do more than babysitters. I hope a babysitter doesn't come on your comments and tweet me out, but I feel like teachers are doing way more.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I'm not comparing babysitters with teachers in a way that's degrading to either of them. What I'm saying is that if you really do think that teachers are glorified babysitters, then pay them like that.
Yeah.
Just pay them like glorified babysitters and they will be fine. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree.
So thank you so much, guys, for doing this with us.
No,
so
thank you.
2.5 hours on a Sunday. It was amazing.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
Thanks
no
for
problem.
having me. Gracias a ti.
Yes, it was really nice to talk to you, to all of you.
Oh, I remembered so many things in these 2 hours. Yeah.
So many triggers.
I feel like it was a therapy session for ex-Shell employees.
We need a whole.
If you are an ex-Shell employee, please tell us your story in the comments.
We would love to have one.
Because even when we didn't mention the name, Shell employees will be able to identify. Like, bitch,
Yeah.
who you're
I
talking.
know what you're talking about. I know what school it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Therapy session.
Yes, yes.
Well, all right then. Do you wanna end it with like the way we ended, Emma, or do you wanna do that?
I think we'll just like sign off normally. You know, thank you guys for being here. Thank our listeners for listening. If you made it through the entire thing, maybe you can be a teacher.
Yes.
Or maybe you want to be a teacher.
That's a proof that you have patience.
Yeah. So we're just gonna end today's episode, and we're grateful to our teachers at least.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to take from this, not because we're experts, but just because we've lived it, we've experienced it. That's it.
Yeah, that's
you know, we've lived it, we've experienced it. It's an experience.
Yeah.
Yes.
So goodbye to our listeners, and we'll see all of you next week for the astrology episode.
Yes.
Bye.
All right.
Bye.